Hello everyone, Steve Skojak here from OnePeterFive, and I have sort of an interesting little report to share with you. So I popped onto my Twitter this afternoon just to take a look and see what was going on, and someone had sent me something kind of interesting, and I'm going to share it with you. So I'm going to cut to the chase here. Thank you, Fiona, if you're watching this, for sending me this tweet. It comes from an account called Tyburn Martyrs, which honestly has blocked me. So we've gone into an incognito window here because incognito windows are neat in that they let you view the tweets and accounts that are blocked, which is why blocking people on Twitter doesn't do much good. Okay, so here it is. The tweet is from Fiona, and she just brings to my attention this tweet here. So we click on it, and it's from Tyburn Martyrs, and it says, Greg Burke Rome. Greg Burke is the director of the Holy See Press Office, and an American, so has no problem with English, who is fiddling with this CCC on the Vatican's website. Why is there a discrepancy on CCC 2358? This inclination, which is objectively disordered, has been edited to read, they do not choose their homosexual condition. Okay, so I saw this, and they have links, but I'm not going to go to the links because I want to show you, I went and did some digging myself to see if I could find how this was going to work. Actually, let me just go to a fresh Google page here, right? So we're going to type in Catechism of the Catholic Church. Bam. Right? So top search result, go right in here, okay? Kind of a lot here in this index. It's messy. The user experience here leaves a little something to be desired, but we come down to part 3, life in Christ, right? And then we have to go to section 2, the 10 Commandments. And then we scroll all the way down here to Article 6, the 6th commandment. Now, I want to show you something before I dig into this, okay? If I click on part 1 of the 6th commandment, male and female, he created them. I know the text is kind of small, but here, let's make it a little bigger. Male and female, he created them. Okay, click that. And we have a page that fits the normal formatting, you know, of the Catechism online, the usual parchmenty background that makes it hard to read and all that. It was cutting edge in the 1990s. Anyway, so then we go down here and we skip the vocation to chastity and go to the love of husband and wife. That one looks normal, that's fine. But if we click on the vocation to chastity, something's weird. The logo's missing. The back button, the up button, they're missing. There's no parchmenty background here. But other than that, it seems to be intact, and paragraph 2358 looks like it's okay. The number of men and women who have deep-seated homosexual tendencies is not negligible. This inclination, which is objectively disordered, okay, there's the key, constitutes for most of them a trial. They must be accepted with respect, compassion, and sensitivity. Every sign of unjust discrimination in their regard should be avoided. These persons are called to fulfill God's will in their lives and, if they are Christians, to unite to the sacrifice of the Lord's cross the difficulties they may encounter from their condition. So to the best of my knowledge, this is what would appear in your print version of the Catechism. But I'm going to duplicate this tab so we don't lose it. Let's look up here at the URL. Okay, Vatican.va/archive/eng for English 0015 _ P85, I assume it's page 85.htm. I was looking around and I noticed that if I delete, there's 2 underscores there. If I delete one and I hit enter, hey, look at that. The formatting is back and there's all the parchmenty background and all the logo is here and the back button, everything's here. And then we scroll down to 2358. And the only thing that seems to be missing from this page is the church's teaching on homosexual acts and inclinations, because here it says not that they are objectively, intrinsically disordered, but that they do not choose their homosexual condition. So let's look over here again. This inclination, which is objectively disordered, is now replaced with they do not choose their homosexual condition. Paragraphs are otherwise, as far as I can see, the same. You'll notice that in this one, it continues after objectively disordered, constitutes for most of them a trial. This one says, for most of them, it is a trial. Next sentence begins, they must be accepted with respect. They must be accepted with respect. Everything after that looks to be the same. But that part's not. So we go from the orthodox traditional teaching on homosexual inclination to the watered down version of the teaching on homosexual inclination. Now, granted, I'm not arguing with the fact they don't choose their homosexual condition, but it's important for the church to remind people that the inclination itself, even when it's not acted upon, is disordered, because it is. And that affects things like the ordination to the priesthood. You can't have somebody with disordered inclinations becoming a priest. This is why Pope Benedict forbade that from happening. And of course, that was a traditional practice that goes back many hundreds of years in the church. There are implications of something being intrinsically disordered versus just being something that's not chosen, you know? I don't choose to be 6'4", but I am, you know, and I bump my head on things. That's different than, hey, being, you know, really tall is intrinsically disordered, which of course it's not. It's a stupid example, but there is a difference between those two things, right? So I started thinking about it and I said, well, what, you know, where have I heard this before? Because I know I've heard that this language is a problem for some people. So, of course, the first thing I thought of was Father James Martin, S.J., because he's like the biggest promoter of heterodox understandings of the church and homosexuality in the world. So I figured he's a guy to check. So Father James Martin, intrinsically disordered. There it is, right? Bam, right at the top, Father James Martin proposes an alternate catechism. National Catholic Register, July 10th, 2017, by Father Gerald E. Murray, who you would know from the Papal Posse on Raymond Arroyo's show, The World Over Live. Father Murray is, of course, a canonist in the Archdiocese of New York, and just a solid guy. You know, he's been really good on combating a lot of the perversions of teaching that have been going on through Amoris Laetitia, et cetera, right? So he's talking about Father James Martin's book, Building a Bridge. And the synopsis here at the top is: the popular Jesuit priest puts forth the notion that the church has misunderstood God's plan for human sexuality for her entire history. I'm not going to read you the entire thing. But we know that Father Martin is an apologist for the homosexual lifestyle, and he's become very controversial because of that. But we have to remember that he has also been appointed, as of last year, as a consultor to the Vatican Secretariat of Communications, I think is what it's called. You know, he's on the Vatican Advisory Board for Communications, right? So that's significant when we read that the real purpose of this book is to advocate for a relaxation of the church's teaching that sodomy is gravely immoral, and that any attraction to commit acts of sodomy is an objective disorder in one's personality. Father Martin rejects the teaching of the Catechism of the Catholic Church that the inclination to homosexual tendencies is objectively disordered. Paragraph, again, 2358. He writes, the phrase relates to the orientation, not the person, but it is still needlessly hurtful, saying that one of the deepest parts of a person, the part that gives and receives love, is disordered, in itself is needlessly cruel. So this is from his new book, Building a Bridge. Okay, so we know that he's on record opposing the use of that language, which has now disappeared, at least in this apparently draft page from the Catechism that looks like it's ready to replace this, as long as they just take out that one little underscore in the URL. So then I started thinking, well, I know I've heard this somewhere else recently, right? And I have. So let's go to OnePeterFive, incidentally, the best website on the internet. Don't tell anybody I told you. And in our sidebar here, we have a search bar. I know a lot of you probably don't know that, but it's there. And so I'm just going to look for 2358 because that's the paragraph. And I know we talked about it recently. And hey, look, there's Father James Martin. And there he is again. But this is the one I'm looking for. Operation Catechism. The Homo Heresy Makes the Final Assault. So we click on this. This is an article that we translated from La Nuova Bussola Quotidiana, which is an Italian website. I think it's a Catholic website. Which is, if I'm not mistaken, edited by a man named Riccardo Cascioli. But the article in question is by Andrea Zambrano. Okay, And so first paragraph kind of lays it out. Change the Catechism. If its doctrine does not coincide with the new desired orthodoxy concerning homosexuality, it will be better to adopt the solution of Alexander the Great, who with one stroke of his sword decided to untangle the Gordian knot in his own way by cutting it in two. Let me remind you, this we published on January 24th. The original article was, just let me take a quick look. Because the timeline, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to observe. So it was originally on the 23rd of January that the Italian original was published, okay? So there's a lot in here, and I'm not going to read it all to you because it's going to be obnoxious to do that. But there is a section here that's worth noting. Chronologically, we'll start here. Chronologically, those who want a Catholic revolution must now put in doubt the truth about homosexuality as taught by the Catechism, as Avvenire observed here with a well-laid-out editorial by Luciano Moya. Quote, there are those who, recognizing the Catholic tradition contained in the Catechism, maintain the necessity of an effective life conducted in chastity. But there are also those, including bishops and theologians, who ask the Church to make a more profound reflection. That's a loaded term. A more profound reflection on the significance of sexuality, not excluding a permissive revision of moral theology. Who is right in this flirtation with moral relativism? The latter group seems to understand. Look at how here they are laying the groundwork to consider the Catechism no longer untouchable, introducing the virus of revision, as if the truth about man and the divine plan for the human race was merely a social construct, subject to changing opinions. After the Avvenire article in May of 2017, a top-secret mini-council was held, in the course of which was laid the foundation, so to speak, for the future dismantling of Articles 2357, 2358, and 2359 of the Catechism of the Catholic Church, in which it says that basing itself on sacred scripture, which presents homosexual acts as acts of grave depravity, tradition has always declared that homosexual acts are intrinsically disordered. I'm not going to go into the rest of this. You can read it yourself. I'll put links to these in the description on the YouTube video that I'm going to upload of this capture. But I wanted to share with you this process that I'm going through, and I wanted to let you know we don't have answers on why this is happening. I just discovered it, and I thought it was important to bring it to your attention. I have no idea when or if they're planning on implementing this for sure, but it looks to me like they're basically doing a staging site, and then all they're going to do is just change the reference by pulling out that one little piece of syntax, and then when you go to pull up the Catechism, it's going to be different. I mean, that would be my guess on what's going on. So we'll ask Greg Burke in Rome, again, who is the director of the Vatican press office. Greg doesn't like to answer my inquiries because I'm a pain in their you-know-what. And they've, I think, decided that any journalist or blogger who is a nuisance to them will be ignored, as though somehow that will make us go away or make us, not have an impact. But we will, and we will continue to do so because we stand for the truth of Christ and for his church, his mystical bride, his mystical body, the one true faith, right? So we just keep going for the truth, and they can tell us or they can not, but we're keeping an eye on it no matter what. So that's it for now. We'll update you if we have more. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we will see you soon.
OnePeterFive.